right. If you can hear the sound of my voice, it means that, yes, you've downloaded another episode of Biters. Here we are. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick. And the guy giggling on the other side of Skype, that's Kirk Manley. Say hello, Kirk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back.
All right.
All right. So let's...
Fourth episode of Fear the Walking Dead.
Not Fade Away.
Which is a Buddy Holly song, which I was going to post on the...
Is it really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I struggled with what that was in reference to. You know, I mean, society fading away, loved ones being taken by the military fading away, the loss of their denial about what's happening fading away. But that doesn't fit with not. You know, that would just be fade away.
Right.
So I was struggling with that. The only thing I could come up with was maybe it's a call to action for our characters to wake up and not let themselves fade away at the whim of, the army and the zombie apocalypse and everything else, So not fade away is wake up, wake up and take action. Don't fade away. I don't know.
Which is interesting because, what I read was that Not Fade Away ties into the Buddy Holly song because of the line, the lyric in there that is, what's it? I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. So that's how it. Like I read, I read into the title kind of like as you did, and then I was seeing that, like when they. Three people who, in order to see the light, and literally the light, like they had to go up to the roof and they saw the light out, and then everything became clear. And but yeah, then other things I was reading said that it ties into the Buddy Holly song, and then it's that line specifically about basically this is how. Basically, the line in the sand is drawn, and this is how it's going to be from here on out. Huh. So,
okay.
So there you go.
It's interesting. There's been a lot of extreme. It seems like there's a lot of extreme feelings about this episode. It seems, and it seems like that's kind of been consistent in terms of people's reaction. Mm-hmm. When I look online or I listen to podcasts, and it's just people either seem to love it or hate it. Almost every week, it's not like, yeah, it's good, but it's got some problems, or, this is, everybody universally agrees, this is horrible, or this is the best thing ever. It's just that either people really, really love this stuff, love what they're doing, or they just don't think they're doing it right.
Well, so before we came on, I said to Kirk, I said that I really struggled with this one this week to come up with a good and a bad. I have an ugly, but to come up with the good and bad, and it wasn't because I struggled because there wasn't anything in this episode that really jumped out at me that was like, oh, that was awesome, and there wasn't anything that really jumped out at me that was like, oh, just cringeworthy. It was just kind of. I feel like I almost feel as though this is one 6-hour movie, and I'm watching it in clips, so I'm not able to actually. I don't think I felt like maybe last week or the week before I struggled kind of too, and I think that's what it is that it's not. It's a slow burn. It's still burning slowly, and I'm fine with that. But I'm just to kind of evaluate on an episodic kind of thing. I feel like maybe I'm not exactly doing it justice because I am just
right.
Where I should see it, maybe at some point if I have enough time, which who does, but watch it from front to back in one big sitting and see if it changes how I interpret it. Because right now I'm kind of in the camp where it's just I don't hate it, I don't love it, but I'm kind of just in the middle. It's just okay, I want to see where this is gonna go.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes have really kicked me into gear in terms of liking it, and I understand what you're saying, and I think that is a growing issue with episodic television, and it's because of, I think, our growing affinity for binge watching and Netflix and the new standard that's been created, and this idea of, essentially Daredevil was a 13-hour movie, and we like that. You know what I mean? I think we enjoy that, and so I think more and more, maybe even unconsciously, shows are being written that way, which makes them less successful, maybe in terms of episodic. You know, like they don't look at this episode purely in terms of the beginning, the middle, and the end. They look at it as an installment in a greater arc.
Right.
That could be. I'm not suffering from that. My enjoyment of it. I found that I thought with this episode we really started to get character development, and I started finding myself liking some characters, not liking other characters, feeling like they're starting to finally put a stake in the ground with some of them, and I go through it in my goods in each individual character that I thought had big development in this episode. But so for me, this one really kind of changed the dynamic for me with this show, and I'm enjoying it much more.
All right, so before we get to that, I'll just say, let's see, the viewership this week slightly lower than last week, but I mean, you had the Emmys on, so that took some eyeballs. But all in all, it wasn't terrible. It pulled in 6.6 million viewers on Sunday night. But we'll see. Somebody posted on a Facebook page about we'll see what happens with the T+3 metric that comes out.
Right.
That'll probably bump it up to like 10 million viewers. And that time delay stat is starting to become more and more prominent when you're factoring in viewership. So,
No.
So
well,
I'm not really worried about it.
I mean, I almost never watch it live.
Oh no.
I think I've watched it live the first one. Although Walking Dead I watch live, but that's because I like to live tweet it.
Yeah.
But
all right, so let's get into it.
All right, dude.
Go ahead. What are your goods?
I thought it was fantastic opening. In fact, I thought it was the best opening so far. I thought that it had a lot of influence from Breaking Bad. In fact, there's an episode of Breaking Bad that opens with the pool, and you see the floating teddy bear or whatever that's in the pool and everything. And I just was completely transported back to that when this thing opens, because it's like you're not sure what you're looking at. It's kind of murky blur, and then it starts to become clear you're underwater, and then you realize it's a pool, but yet it's muddy and dirty. This pool is not, you're in a pool, but you're not in a good pool,
Right.
And I liked all the symbolism of that. The music, the song choice, "Beautiful Day" by Lou Reed, just very poignant choice for that opening. The weird contrast that you're seeing with like him floating in the pool, almost like the 60s movie with Dustin Hoffman.
Not The Graduate.
The Graduate, yeah. He's floating in the pool with the glasses on. I mean, it was such a tribute to that movie. You know what I mean? He's floating, and the guy's like, "Yeah, you should get into plastics." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I thought that was cool. I even enjoyed the Chris character and his voiceover. I thought there was some great
his video blog in the beginning.
Yeah, his video blog. I thought there was some great lines in there where he talks about the dog was brought up again. He talks about nature, and it belongs to her again. Everything beyond the fence, it belongs to her and to the dogs and to the dead. And I thought that was pretty cool. Also, there's another little line where he says, we had to, and then our little green friends arrived. And they show the shots of the military pulling in. And I thought that was kind of an interesting choice of words, too, because it's like our little green friends immediately makes me think of aliens.
Right.
And what are aliens, but not them. And we don't know what their intentions are. When aliens come to visit, they're not us. And even though, you're thinking army people are our people, but these army people may not be, on our side. And what their intentions are isn't clear. Then he talks about the feeding time at the zoo and the truck pulling up, and you see the people walking up behind in the feed, and it's like, to me that was kind of foreshadowing the episode's plot line that that they're trapped and that the army is their captives, and their motivations for keeping them fed and alive is not clear yet. Of course, then he makes that even more poignant when he talks about how Travis would give him a parade if
Right.
that was great. So I just thought, that I thought it was a great opening. Let's see. I think the music is so much better. I complained about the music in the first in the pilot, and I think music and well, I won't get into a lot, but I have a lot about in my ugly about sound and everything else. But so thought that the intro music was great, as I said. The clocks. We get clocks again in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We open up with the clock ticking. I'm not sure what that significance of that is. With Madison watching the clock, incredible extreme close up. Hard to even initially know what it was.
Of the inside of the clock with the sweeping second.
Yeah, it's really shot really, really tight, and it looks like the big hand as it ticks past a portion of the number, but it actually turns out to be a circle. There's also like these what look like little mini bullet holes that are in that face. Then a close up on the center mechanics, and the clock I believe is at 8:10, but the second hand is on the 4 as it's passing in the shot. So maybe this is another attempt to start. This is episode 4. Maybe they're trying to do something fun with that. I don't know. But it was interesting to see clocks back because, in the main show, the clocks are, or at least were last season, all over the place. There was a lot of reference to 9 days. My gut feeling is that that's just trying to make sure that we as the viewer understand that there's been a time jump.
Right.
But I don't know if anybody else that's listening might think, have some ideas on, or maybe you do, of other things that they might have been trying to say with 9, because they bring it up quite a few times. So let's see what else. I liked how, again, talking about the characters, I'll go into it in a little bit more detail in a little bit, but Madison and Travis, it became really clear in this episode that they're approaching this apocalypse and their current situation in 2 different ways, 2 ways that are actually in conflict with each other. And that hasn't really been as evident for me as it was in this episode. Clearly Madison questions authority. She challenges it. She's, suspicious of it. She's thinking, maybe they don't want us to use the phones. Why do they not want us to have contact with the outside world? Why haven't they delivered? She's very questioning, whereas Travis is like just blindly following. They're here to help us. They're going to get it straight. They're going to get it sorted. He says, just hang in there. Don't worry about it. Have faith in the authority. You know what I mean? And it's just 2 totally different views, which makes sense for them clashing all the time. And of course, I loved, the metaphor for, them seeing the light as played out through Chris with his seeing the reflection in the house that's out in the DMZ. Let's see what else. Well, I talked about character development. It seemed to, I just felt like each character, for instance, Alicia, she seems to be realizing the truth, and she has that fight with Travis and Maddie in Madison in the kitchen, where she's like, yelling at them that this is not the old world. Stop pretending, to have, a discussion or an argument about something that doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? And I thought that then her reading of the note by the neighbor, making she's really kind of, she seems to kind of understand that they're in a new paradigm. You know what I mean? And I thought she's taken a little bit more, asserting herself a little bit more, standing up to them. She's not going to just let them, in the beginning, they all lied to her and wouldn't tell her what was going on and everything else. She knows what's going on, and she's setting them straight now. I saw that as a big kind of a jump for her character. Nick, he is one sick bastard. I mean, we get a little peek at what he's capable of when he taps the old guy's morphine, but it pissed me off but it also felt very accurate.
Right.
And it's frustrating because I love that actor and I love what he's doing with the character, and so I want to like the character, but then they're making sure that we don't forget he's a junkie, and that as a junkie he's bad news. You know what I mean? And that was wonderful to me. That was character growth. You know what I mean? Travis, obviously I just talked about him before, how his loving the believing in authority, not loving authority, but believing in authority and taking his direction and everything else. But of course, by the end, when he gets up on the roof after everything that just happened with them taking everybody, and he sees the flashes, which are now not mirror flashes or attempts to communicate, but are clearly gun flashes. And he's the one that revealed to the captain or the commander where that was coming from. So whoever was there is getting shot now because of what he did, and the military is not what he thinks it is. And they're not there they're lying to him and everything else. It just seemed like big, huge development. I'd be very, very, very surprised if next week he's still in the same level of denial. That would be a huge mistake. I think he's finally going to start coming out of that fog. And then Liza, trying to help people and work with the authority, the doctor, the military, seeing them as good. But by the end of the episode, when they take Nick and she realizes she's completely screwed up and made this huge mistake, and having faith in them and health and everything else, she jumps on and goes with the doctor to honor her promise to help protect the children, which she made with Maddie last week. And, I think she feels guilty, and now she's seen the light, and that this isn't what she thought it was. And now she's got to do something to try and make sure to protect those people that she's ensured go with these bad guys, all of that to me was like huge character development in all of those characters. And just now I want to know what happens to her when she goes to the doctor. I want to see if Travis is finally woken up. Madison now completely on board with the idea that this is not what it appears to be. I think she's going to become more confrontational. So I thought that was really that was a lot of good. So you didn't see any of that?
So I saw a couple of things in there. First of all, my number one is Frank Delane as Nick. I mean, he just, like you said, he's got the junkie thing down. I mean, the fact that he goes over and next thing you know is he's under the guy's bed, and he's got the morphine drip between his toes. I mean, I thought, that actor is just killing it on this show. He's continues to be and the quip that he's got with the doctor when she comes over. She's like, "Your heart's racing." He's like, "Well, you're kind of attractive, and so he's got some funny stuff. So he's still of all the characters, I probably care the most about him. Madison, I actually thought that both the actress and the character, I thought that they were both stronger this episode. She was much more of a mother, I think, in this episode.
Why? Because she beat her son.
Well, but the thing is that when she comes in there after she's gone out over the fence and she's seen what's out there, right, and then she comes back and she looks at her son, and no words are exchanged between them, and right, I'm sitting there looking at the TV going, okay, if I'm a parent, I'm gonna smack this kid. And she does. I mean, because it's like, this is what you're going to do when that's what's going on out there. So right, I thought it was totally, in character, and that's what a parent would do, So I saw her as stronger this episode and more of a mother. Ruben Blades as what's his name? Daniel. He's just, I just love that actor, and he could probably just read the ingredients on a cereal box, and I probably think it was great
every scene he's been in and every opportunity he's had, he just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, and so the whole line about him, him talking about basically, putting in what the definition of fear is, like what, right, that's great. Okay, so Liza. So I've got a different take on Liza. Love the actress. And there was just something when she shows up at the house, and the neighbor's house, and the army doctor's already there, and she kind of knows that something's off, right? And
Right.
just the way she deals with that doctor, and then the doctor's like, "Oh, so you're not really a nurse practitioner, right?" And she's like, "But we need you to play along a little bit more." There's something. It's not like first Liza's got this look on her face like, "Oh crap," It's and my first reaction was, "Who cares if this is a new paradigm in society? Who cares if she doesn't have a license? She clearly has kept these people alive, and they trust
Right.
her." Like, so the look on her face was, or it seemed originally like, "Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble for not doing this." But then when the doctor says, "We need you to keep doing what you're doing, keep pretending," there's like a look on her face like, "What?" Like there's something more going on. So my take on it is that at the end, she sees all this chaos going on when they take Griselda away, and then all of a sudden they're taking Nick away, but they're not taking Daniel. And the look on her face when she's standing there at the end of at the back of the truck, the doctor's like, "We need you to come. I need you to come with us. We need you." Blah blah blah. And she stands there and she looks at the house, and then she's kind of contemplating. My take on it is that, and it's backed up because later on, the whole the venom that was just coming out of Madison's eyes towards
Right.
Liza, and her line at the end, she was like, "Liza did this."
Right.
My take on it is that Liza knows that by going with them, they now have somebody on the inside. It's not so much to watch out for their people on the inside, what's going to happen to them, as it is, we need to have somebody on the inside now who knows what's going on. So she's kind of like the sleeper agent on the inside. And,
Yeah.
and I think that will play out, clearly if you saw the previews for Cobalt next week. It looks like they're mounting a rescue attempt. So Liza's going to play into that. So we'll have the confrontation between Liza and Madison, where Madison wants to knock Liza's head off, and Liza's like, "No, I'm a good guy. I've been a good guy all this time." Blah blah. So that's my take on Liza. My other good was in the beginning, just the whole presence of the military and just how it was. We had talked about on the last podcast about how, oh great, the military's here. It might not necessarily be a good thing. And there was just this sense of this heaviness, this weight that having the military around, a constant presence, just as it is in any city after a terrorist attack or something. There's that ominous presence. There's guys with guns that are walking around amongst you, and it just feels very close and claustrophobic. And look, they were using, as Madison said, they were using the house kind of as like a triage center. I like that. I like the the at least the first half of the show with that weight and that presence. I thought that was really good. All right. So what were your bads?
Oh, I got more goods.
Oh, you got more goods.
Oh yeah. I want to chime in also on the conversation between Madison and Daniel. I agree. I thought it was fantastic. You mentioned that it kind of defined the term fear and the title and all, and I wanted to just go into that a little bit more. I had a post on the Facebook page in response to somebody who posted up about that, but essentially his story and then his statement about what his father said about men do these things not because of you, but they do the evil because of fear. And then at that moment I realized my father's a fool for believing there's a difference. That was kind of like a real turning point, I think, for the show, because it's refocusing it back to the real apocalypse at issue, which is, isn't the Walker terror, but the society's self-consuming, response to it, and the evil that men do when, as a result of fear, and that's really the terror that's makes the show, or is part of the show, or part of this new world. Mm-hmm. And that got me thinking about the fact that there's the famous speech by Rick Grimes, which is in the comics, and they brought it into the show last season, where he points out that the living are now the walking dead.
Right.
So if the living are the walking dead, and living people do evil things because of fear, then the title of the show being Fear the Walking Dead really translates into Fear the Living, which I thought was kind of interesting and made the title finally for me make sense, because I kind of struggled since the beginning with, well, why Fear the Walking Dead? I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But really, the title of the show should be Fear the Living. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool, and I thought that was a great added dimension to that conversation between the two of those characters. I thought some of the, again, cinematography and the way that it just seems like the show is being really well thought out artfully in terms of how they're doing things, in terms of photography, in terms of shooting, in terms of scene setup, in terms of sound, in terms of all sorts of the visual aspects. There were lots of mirror shots and reflections of characters this episode. I don't know if you noticed that. Travis in the neighbor's bedroom, when he goes to talk to the neighbor, you see him reflected constantly in the mirror in the bedroom. But then when he goes into the bathroom to get the neighbor's reflected in the mirror that's, he's sitting on the toilet and the mirror's there and he's reflected in it. Alicia enters the neighbor's bedroom, crosses front that big mirror in her bedroom. Madison, when she's on the ground under the car, there's a zombie dead basically looking at her. Hair is very similar. It's almost like a mirror image of the two of them reflected right there. Nick and Madison in the bedroom of the morphine house, when she catches him, there's constant reflections of the two of them in the mirrors. Nick and Alicia are reflected in the mirror in the bathroom when she gets him to come out of the bathroom after the confrontation with the mother. I'm not sure what the significance is of the mirrors, but it was so much so that it made me think there was something they were trying to communicate visually with that. One thing that came to mind was the idea that there's two realities going on, in this world right now, and that they look very similar, but are vastly different. The fantasy world of the safe zone and the reality world of the life outside, and that, it's the reality is almost kind of twisted and reflected. They're trying to make it look like it's normal in the safe zone, but it's not. Another great thing I thought was the chimes. There was and again, in my ugly, I'm going to talk a little bit more about sounds, but the chimes show up multiple times. They're in the opening sequence, the hanging orange chimes. When Alicia enters the Garden of Death, again, we hear the chimes. The chimes are there constantly in the background in a lot of the scenes. When she walks through that garden, again, when she opens the door, there's a little jingle device on the door that's chiming. After she reads the note back, after she reads the note on the bed, we get a shot back at the orange chimes from the opening. The chime noise overlaps with the morphine drip. So the chimes are going again when Liza leaves the house. And when Nick gets out of the pool and spies on to see that he can go in now, the chimes are going. Then he gets in there, and we see him in there, and he's taking the morphine. But now the sound is the chimes are they're like all filtered, and it's a hazy, muffled chime that's obviously more representative.
That echoes the numbness that he's feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Then after Madison talks with Daniel, let's see, and remember, he ends that conversation with "keep your son close." And then the next scene is she's out on the street walking, and she's walking past that house, and the chimes are going. The Humvee passes her, and the chimes are going, and it almost draws her back in, and she goes to there, and then that's when she finds him. But it was just. It was interesting how they were using the chimes both visually. There was a couple of straight shots, almost like a Magnola shot. You know how he puts he'll put a bell in or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a comic, and
Yeah.
there's just a still frame of a bell. You know, and then you'll hear bong bong, and the next thing is the same kind of thing. And then they're also using it just sound wise throughout. I thought that was really really cool. Let's see. Another cool thing that was happening a lot was there was people's words and the actions were in contrast to each other in a number of places. Some examples of that were the soldier says to Ophelia, the whole thing about, I just really like you, and you're the only thing that makes me believe there's still good in people. And meanwhile, she's trying to use him to get the medication. So she's not there because because she has any great love for him.
Right.
She's using him, the commander telling Travis that the crazy neighbor needed to be removed and you can't have him popping off. That would be bad for the thing. Then he takes a swing at the ball, hits it a shank, and totally snaps and fucking son of a, you know what I mean? And it's like, so, he's obviously popping off, you know what I mean? It was like their words and the actions were like in contrast, that Nick telling his mom he's fine, I don't need the drugs, everything else, and then he's stealing the morphine. Daniel, the doctor telling Daniel he can go, but then he's not allowed to go. People's words and their actions throughout this whole episode were very, very different, or in a number of places different. I thought that was interesting to help kind of, again, echo the idea that things are not what they appear to be. The other thing about that line that the soldier says, I just really like you. You're the only thing that makes me believe there's still good in people. There's 9 days into this. That's how far we are. Why?
Well, we're 9 days into this quarantine.
Well, but it was only a day or two before that happened. So I think he said it's 9 days since the world ended, 9 days since it all started as well. But regardless, say it's 10 or 11 days. It's still, why does this guy feel like there's no good in people anymore? What has he seen? The soldier. Mm-hmm. I just thought kind of struck me as a strange line, to kind of, in 9 days, granted, there's zombies and everything else, but why does he all of a sudden feel there's no good in people anymore? What has he seen? You know what I mean? I just, that kind of just hung out there for me. That's it on the good. What do you got for bad?
Okay. So, okay, so my first thing is, and I don't know, I'm vacillating between these are legitimate and some of these are just nitpicking. But first of all, the problem I got is with Lieutenant Moyer. If you've ever seen Bloodline on Netflix, it's a fantastic show, and he plays that actor's character on that is on Bloodline too, and he's really great on that show. So it's funny how when you watch a show, you always remember like another show that somebody else is in. Anyway, the problem I have is with Lieutenant Moyer. So first of all, they really paint this guy to look like, that whole golfing scene. Was that as soon as he had that, you saw the pad and he was hitting balls, did you not think governor?
Yeah, absolutely. No, is his name Moyer? His last name is Moyer?
I think so. I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe it's nitpicky.
Absolutely. They were trying to say that. I mean, the governor was hitting him down the street or out into the zombie from the top of the bus or whatever.
Yep.
On multiple occasions, we saw that. Absolutely.
I'm trying to find Bethany Exner. Moyers. Yeah. Jamie McShane, Lieutenant Moyers.
Okay.
So the problem I have one of the problems I had, and it struck me right off the bat, maybe it's because I'm former military, but why for such a big operation, for such a big thing as this, which is controlling a suburb, why you'd put why would be such a low ranking officer in charge of it? So for a lieutenant, if you saw the one bar on his hat, he's this. it strikes me as odd for somebody who's got that is probably, and given his age, how he looks, he's probably officer candidate school, or I don't know. The problem I had is that it just seemed he seemed a little young as an officer, as in time as an officer based on his rank, to be as jaded about people as he is, as jaded about society. I would expect somebody a little bit higher up, especially to be in charge of that whole operation. A lieutenant like him could be reporting to somebody, but I would expect that to be somebody higher up to be running that show. Maybe that's a nitpick. I'll let that one go.
I don't think it's a nitpick. I think it's conscious, because that says to me that if you've got a lieutenant who's low ranking in charge of this whole thing, where are the big guys? Are there none left? Are there so few that now they've got to put this low in the totem pole in charge? Guys who are obviously inexperienced, not as sophisticated and capable. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I bet that was done on purpose.
Okay. I don't like the.
I would never have caught that, but that's cool.
I don't like the 9-day time jump. I don't.
Yeah, some people complained about that.
I don't, because first of all, that's a lot of fence. First of all, when was the last time you ever saw the military in any capacity put something up that big in like 9 days? Okay. So that aside,
Well, wait a minute. The military is a lot faster than Congress, though.
Well, this is true. But the thing is that so we got the military moves in, National Guard moves in, erects this fence around this suburb, creates this little quarantine zone. Let me just put this. Let me change this a little bit. If the military came into your neighborhood and started erecting a fence around and didn't really give anybody any explanation as to what was going on, how happy would you be about that?
I would not be happy.
Okay, so basically we've gone 9 days. We've gone from whatever happened last episode to suddenly the military showing up last episode, seemingly shooting a couple people surprisingly in the head, and then there's a fence up. And along that time, the neighborhood has basically just seemed to be like, okay, whatevs, it's just a fence. I want to see that. That could not have been a smooth transition. There has to be conflict in that 9 days. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to piggyback on this. Okay, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I want to respond to that. I think you make a really good point, and it's funny because I don't usually listen to other podcasts before we podcast, but I did listen to a couple this week, and Jason over at the Walking Dead cast made an interesting argument, very similar argument, and he loved this episode, but he had a huge problem with that right there, just what you said. And his feeling was he thought it was such a missed opportunity with this show.
Yes.
That this show, kind of the promise of this show was to show us everything falling apart and the battle to get some sort of control and everything else, and we missed it.
Yep.
We see that it happened because she goes out into the zone and walks around and sees all of the evidence of it. We see the fence, but we don't see the battle to do that. And wow, it's like, what a missed opportunity. And
right.
So I think that's it. I think you're not the only one seeing that.
And piggybacking on that is this show, again, missed opportunity is, okay, so let's just, okay, so we did we got 9 days later, we're quarantined. Remember last episode, we have two guys. We have Travis and his neighbor both rolling out their garbage to the street, right? Kind of looking at each other
yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
This show, again, another missed opportunity is what's going on with all the families. We see this one family. We see Travis but where are the families banding together? Where are the people 9 days in going, all right, this is crap, and they're having secret meetings inside their homes. It's like.
That's good. That's a good point too.
You know, like the Nazis walking in, creating ghettos, and then the people having their secret meetings in all their houses. Like, well, who's got a ham radio? Who's got this?
Right.
And we don't see any of that. And I think that's, again, like you said, that's a problem, because this should be, while this family should be, the crux of the story, I want to see more about what's going on and everything out there. I get, and I think that when you do something like that, this sense of community and we're all together, and there's got to be more of us out there. I think that lends even more weight to seeing a house out there with a light flickering and going on in the window. Now all of a sudden there's like more weight there. This,
Right.
so that I didn't care for. Okay, again, I guess another piggyback on that is that Alicia, when she confronts her parents, okay, so remember last episode is Madison protecting her daughter from seeing what's going on outside and kind of keeping her sheltered, and we talked about that. Now all of a sudden this one, while I did think that she acted in character as kind of like that fatalistic teenager, as they are going to be, over little things. She confronts her parents, because they're nitpicking each other for a minor argument. To your point, where if she makes a huge jump in logic from last episode to this one, that if she's believing that, well, this is the new paradigm, and she hasn't really even seen what's out there, or maybe she has, and it's in that 9-day period that we don't know about.
Right.
So
right.
again,
Right.
That's something else that I think was it kind of felt like once you made that jump of 9 days, it was almost like I mean, there's a whole episode, maybe 2 episodes that should have been like in there,
Yeah.
Maybe there were, and then they cut it back to hit 6. I don't know.
I agree.
I didn't like Travis, and I didn't like Travis for a couple of reasons. One,
I don't think we're supposed to like Travis.
well, but the thing is that he's not real. Everybody in his family is relatively real, right? Everybody's got street smarts. Nobody's like blind-eyed, and I mean the case can be made for Alicia, but she's a teenager, and you kind of give them a wide berth. But all the stuff that's going on, again, the whole 9 days, and there's no communications. There's the power that we get from one point to another point, and then it gets turned off. All of this stuff. Seriously, you're going to sit there and just say, "Oh, the military, they've got it under control." Don't worry about it. My ass. You're going to be just as skeptical. You're going to be just as concerned about what's going on out there as everybody else. And that he's such a human. I think they've gone too far to him, to make him the humanitarian, to make him the Herschel of this. I mean,
Yeah.
Herschel believed. My take, Herschel believed in humanity, and he believed that he believed in God, and he was tempered by his religion, and he believed in a greater good out there. But yet he did see the world around him and all this other stuff. So he was aware of all that stuff, and he was there was a conflict in him, right? Between what he saw, what he experienced, what you had to do, and then what his ideals were. But you don't get that with Travis. Travis isn't changing at all. Travis has still got blinders on and just kind of, now, like you said, that better change now that he's
Right.
what he's seen at the end of the episode. But I think that they really hammered the point home when he's having sex with Madison in the car, and she's like, "Okay, well, it's time to get back to work." And he's like, "Oh, what? We can't cuddle a little?" I mean, they just emasculate him. They've really gone really far to emasculate him, and I find him just really uninteresting. I think those were my biggest bads.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but on the Travis thing, but I find that it irritates me a little bit, but I want to be irritated by some of the characters. You know what I mean? It's like I want there to be characters that I like, characters that I'm nervous and afraid about, characters that piss me off. Everything, like Nick pisses me off now. I kind of put Travis in the same thing. I want to shake him. I want to shake him and slap him. It's like, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think it's really unbelievable. My father would be like Travis.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. He would be out jogging, doing a run, coming back, telling everybody, this is what's happening. They're getting this straight. This is the good news. They're going to get this sorted. He was always, the glass is half full. and he was always optimistic and positive, and to a fault, absolutely to a fault. Sometimes, so I don't find that as being unbelievable. I find it being irritating, that he's not waking up. I find the fact that she's not giving him more grief about it. I think in this episode she starts to.
But the thing is,
right off the bat with the opening scene when she's like, hello, where do you want me to start, motherfucker? I got this, 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 and where are you?
But this is also a guy.
But speeches to the people, It's like
right. But this is also a guy who saw his neighbor get his head blown off, and then Travis also buried him in the backyard. This isn't new to him. Like he's seen stuff. If he was like Alicia and he hadn't really, like, she hasn't really seen anything. Again, asterisk, I don't know what happened in the 9 days, but like her boyfriend, he was just really sick. Well, we've not heard from him again, so you got to assume the worst. If that happened to Travis, if that's all he's seen and all he has are, Nick saying, hey, there's this creepy, even if all Travis has seen wasn't, Calvin getting hit by the truck, or, and all he saw was just that big blood pool in the church, I might go along with it. This guy needs to see the stuff, quotes, the stuff in order to believe. But he's seen it. He's participated in it.
Right.
And he's still, obtuse. So,
well, I think what happens is every time it gets really bad, there's something kind of pops up that allows him to, look at it differently or something, and I think the army has provided that excuse for him to continue his denial. But at the end of this episode, when it becomes clear that those people who were signaling are being shot in that place, and he has to be putting two and two together that it's only happening because he told them about it, that the army is no longer, in his mind, clearly there to protect them, and all of his faith and belief in them is going to be questioned. If it's not, I'm going to be shocked. I'm going to be disappointed. I think that it'll be another missed opportunity. I think and it will start to become hard to swallow in terms of believability for him.
But isn't it interesting that in the first episode, the kid who's not his son, who is the drug addict, who has all these issues, who has a history of everything, when he says, I saw some freaky stuff at the church,
right?
Travis goes, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go look into this, and he goes to the church. When when the blood of his the blood of his loins comes to him and is like, I saw something in the house. Oh, you silly kid! You got to get off that thing, and you got to help. Just completely disavows it. Isn't that interesting?
The way I would interpret that is that he has a lot more to lose now if he gives in. And when Chris presents this stuff to him now, it's too scary for him. It's too much of a risk for him to take stock in it or faith in it or believe in it or accept it. Whereas when the whole thing went down with Nick, everything was normal. So he was willing to be able to say, let me at least check out the validity of this and, give the guy some credit for it or whatever. But now it's like, if this army doesn't come through, what do they have? They got nothing. His all of his hope is now tied up in his belief in the army's coming through for him, or not the army, but the National Guard. And, I think that's probably why he blows off the son, Chris, because he can't afford to jeopardize that denial. I don't know. That's how I would interpret that. But we'll see. If the show is consistent as it's been, we're going to get next week. He's going to be right back to thinking everything's fine. I don't know.
I had one more bad I just happened to remember, and it was a point that you brought up, and it was Ophelia.
I felt you.
with Sean Hatosi, the actor, which was on what was the cop show?
It was on Southland.
That's it.
And he was on with Cudlitz.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ben McKenzie, who's over on Gotham now. Not that that matters. Anyway.
Speaking of Gotham, by the way, that you brought that up, interesting note for everybody. I don't know if I don't watch Gotham, but I was watching the review of the first episode of the season on. Do you ever watch the YouTube guy Emergency Awesome?
No.
Oh my God, I'll send you a link. He does these great little short reviews and of everything, all the comic book, sci-fi stuff, all the Marvel movies. Anyway, I follow him, and he did a thing, and I guess they used the same Lou Reed song, "Beautiful Day," for their opening segment.
Oh,
This week. Totally, I'm sure coincidence, but just a funny little side note.
but I didn't like Ophelia with the soldier. Again, it's 9 days in, and I get why she's doing it for the medicine, blah blah blah, and but like really in 9 days, I mean, it just again, I just don't think that makes her character. I just don't like the way it makes her character look.
Yeah, well, I think her character is becoming desperate, and her father, clearly doesn't listen to her very much, and he's got his own mind about how to deal with things. So she's trying to help her mother in whatever way she can, and she's taking it into her own hands to kind of use her ways, her wily ways, to try and get the medicine, but. It's not working out too well for her. But I agree. It was an uncomfortable scene for a lot of reasons. But yeah.
The beginning, the first part where he was kind of hitting on her, like, "What's your name? Spell it again." Like that was kind of cute, and I let that go. But then when it was like, the end part, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm the total opposite. I thought the scene where they first are talking creeped me out. It was like, oh, Jesus, the last thing you want is the person in power and authority, the military guy, to start hitting on people who are in desperate need of their help. That's like terrifying.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, again,
That's
I'm just speaking
gross.
But
They obviously knew that was obviously, an understanding between the two of them. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess it's because, again, I'm speaking from my days when I was in the military, and I knew that the uniform brought in the ladies. So, yeah, we did that stuff too. So it's whatever.
Okay. Let's see. My bads. Yeah, I had. We already talked about this, but I said that this episode should have been called "The Travis Needs to Be Bitch Slapped So He Wakes the Fuck Up." That's what the title should have been.
That might have been a little long to fit on IMDb.
Yeah. I didn't like the first sequence with the commander. I thought the golf ball scene was good. I thought that even though it was definitely almost too much on the nose. Hey, this guy could be the governor. But I have a theory about that. But anyway, I didn't like the first one where, you said, why aren't people, asking questions or trying to organize or whatever. And it seemed like that town meeting was the show's effort to try and show that there is some like people sitting around questioning, challenging, want to know what's going on. And so they're drilling him with questions. And then he turns around and says something about, so be nice so I don't have to shoot you. Ha 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 ha.
That was ridiculous. That was
totally ridiculous, and I didn't like that because it was too on the nose. It was too. This is going to be a bad guy. He's not good. And it's like you want to have that kind of come out slowly. You don't want it to be the first thing you meet this guy. You know what I mean? And in fact, the scene right after that where he's walking with Travis and trying to get him to go in and get this neighbor, and he's oh, you're a gearhead. Cool, great. Now, look, can you help me out? Right. It was like, obviously, he didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? That felt sincere. That felt real. And made the guy seem too, not so good and everything else. But the whole thing where I'm going to shoot you was too much. It was too much, too early. I didn't like that. I think that there's a chance the whole thing with him might be a misdirect. And if it was, I think that would be cool. If they go ahead and they make him be kind of a bad guy, which seems like where they're going with it, it's kind of predictable. You know what I mean? Very predictable, in fact. And but it would be cool if he ends up becoming a good guy. If they're trying to say this guy's got he's not a good guy. He's going to be like the governor or everything else, and then it turns out that he's actually somebody that turns out to be good. I think that would be a cool switch with him. Might be something they're going to do. Another bad, I thought, although, again, I know why they did it. Some people will argue that it was really good, but there wasn't one zombie in the entire show.
Right.
That whole episode. Now, I think they did that on purpose to put the emphasis on the real threat being people. You know what I mean? Being the living, being the army, being the message with the conversation with Daniel about, the fear that men do. And they wanted to really, and I think it was a stark to have this movie, this zombie show, not have a zombie in it, and I think they did that on
This isn't
purpose.
the first time, right?
Absolutely the first time. Every episode's had a zombie.
Has it?
I think so. This is the third episode? Fourth episode? Yeah, the first episode we had the girl in the beginning. Yeah. We had the guy at the end, the drug dealer. What happened in the second episode? Second episode they had I don't know. Remember the second episode? I don't even remember the second episode.
Right. We've had Sarah next door. We've had the neighbor.
Right. The last episode we had a lot.
I thought maybe episode 2 we had gone with that one. Okay.
I don't think so, but not certainly not in the way that they had in this episode. But so I don't know. I just thought that it would be cool to have, or a good idea to have had. They also wanted to emphasize the fact that the military has been successful in clearing out. Remember, he said there's a 6-mile radius. Yep. Well, first of all, they did that in 9 days, right, with one platoon.
Right.
The city has how many people in it? How many people are in LA?
100 million?
Yeah. Holy shit! Really? No, it can't be 100 million. 100 million?
I don't know. I was ballparking. I was rounding up to the nearest 100 million.
I was thinking a couple million, but I'm sure we can find that while you're looking. The point being that that's a freaking lot of zombies.
3.84 million. 3.84.
So almost 4 million people. You got to figure the infection spread pretty quick in 9 days. There had to be a lot of zombies. So it was hard for me to believe.
Well, hold on a second. It's not just a lot of zombies. Remember, they're also capping regular people, too.
Right. That's true.
So
that's true. But, I don't know. Just the idea that they would have sweeped out for, between getting people out to the camps and killing zombies, that they would have gotten, 4 million people would have been cleared out. I find that hard to believe. But if they'd had, there's a great shot where there's a shot of the fence. I think it's when there's a sunrise coming. Travis is looking for the neighbor. It's the morning. It's that Madison goes up on the roof and she's trying to signal. And that was an interesting progress too. Just to kind of go on a side note, Chris, I don't remember exactly. Chris doesn't try to signal them, does he?
No.
No, he sees it. He records it.
Yeah.
Then the next time we see the light, Madison is trying to signal them, and then so that's now we're trying to communicate back,
right, or
get them to communicate, and then the next time is Travis goes up and the light is them being shot. It's just an interesting, it changed a little bit each time. That's kind of. But anyway, that morning, so she's up on the roof trying to signal. He's on the fence line, and there's a great single shot of L.A., the city, way in the background, and it starts off, and it's through the fence, and there's these weeds. Mm-hmm. And it just would have been cool to have one shambling zombie, kind of like there's a great episode in season 3, I think. Season 3? Maybe it was season 2. I think it was season 3 of the main show. And they go on the road trip, and it's Rick and what was the guy that his partner, the cop,
Shane.
Him and Shane go to bring the guy to dump him. Mm-hmm. And remember, they go to this like a bus terminal or something, or there's a school bus with the zombies filled in it.
Oh, right.
That one, and when I think it's either when they're driving out, or I think it's when they're driving out.
There's that one in the field that's just walking along.
Yeah, it's watching the road, and there's nothing, and then way off in the distance, there's one shambling zombie.
Well, they kind of hinted at that in the first episode, where there's that one guy in the park. Walking.
You should have done something like that at that shot. So you got all of LA in the background, you get the field of weeds through the fence, and on the other side of the fence, just a little shambling, kind of like they did with their commercials, the TV commercials.
Yes.
And like the skate park, and then the foot shambles in, just to kind of like say, don't forget these badasses are still out here. You know what I mean? They're not the people aren't the only threat.
Well, so I think that's something that's missing from this show. That I think that it's Fear the Walking Dead, but it feels like it's just kind of a almost like a walking in place, and every episode we come in and we're just taking a snapshot of what's going on, but we're not really driving to anything.
Right.
Look at the shows when we watch the main show, right? Every episode, when the episode is over, you're like, holy crap! Next week can't come fast enough because
Right.
we're building towards something, right? Something happened in an episode, and it's building towards an impetus to change and to go somewhere.
Right.
Nothing that doesn't happen in these episodes. Again, it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, where I feel like maybe the wide base of the triangle, if you're coming down to a focal point, is that first episode, to the sixth one, where you got to take it all as one. The Walking Dead, the show, maybe it's because they are able to look from different directions, like when they split the group up and they've got one group this way and they got one group this way, and the way they've got the multiple angles, that you kind of get that focal, you
Right.
feel like you're being
Well, they've
channeled.
they've also created, their storylines have gotten more structured, so that like you have a driving impetus, like you're saying. For instance, you had the terminus. Before that you had, I want to keep calling it Mayberry RFD, but wherever the hell the governor.
Oh yeah, Woodbury.
Woodbury, and they were driving towards a conflict between the prison and Woodbury, and then they were driving towards Terminus. Now, so then they were driving towards Alexandria, the safe zone, and now we're driving towards the conflict with the wolves, and you know what I mean. And they set it all up early, and then it kind of builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And yeah, they're not doing that here. I feel though that with this episode, we're now definitely building towards confrontation with the military. They've got to try and rescue their people. I'm kind of like on edge, ready to see what happens this next week now. But I don't feel, I agree with you. I don't feel that that's anything that's happening on the bigger scale of the total arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only other bad I had was, it's hard for me to believe that Madison would go out beyond the fence and during the day, and not, I'm just period. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, she's got guts and she's ballsy and she's, it's consistent with her character that she wants to challenge and question what they're telling her about what's going on out there. She wants to see it with her own eyes. I applaud all that, but I don't know. It just seems like you wouldn't go in the middle of the day and cut a big hole in the fence that's protecting you from all the zombies, and then go,
and not tell anybody that you're in your inner circle.
Don't tell anybody where you're going.
Right.
Then go and see all of this stuff. I mean, it just wasn't realistic that she was going to get all the way to that house anyway.
Right.
I mean, is that where she was going? Was that her mission?
That was my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and. So I mean, it was cool. It was a cool sequence. They did a really great job with it, but I just didn't. It didn't seem like it was realistic.
Okay.
Those were my bads.
All right, so my ugly is a bad ugly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I am just sick and tired of. I'm sick and tired of the military being construed when you need a bad guy, that it always, and it seems like always in these zombie movies or any of these shows, the military is always the fall guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I can understand this kind of a kind of blasé attitude, ringing a suburb and keeping them contained and under control, and then being kind of removed from it, being a little cold, making stupid comments like Lieutenant Moyers does, about don't get out of line or I'll shoot you. I get that.
Asinine comment.
I get it if this was a National Guard unit setting up in a region that they had no idea what was going on, like in Iraq or Afghanistan. I can see it. I get it, because you're strangers in a strange land and you don't know what's going on, and that's your you have orders to follow, and that's what you're doing, and X, Y, and Z. On domestic turf, though, around your own people, no way. There's no way. Because, and first of all, and I didn't like the end of the show. I I didn't like the end of the show when these guys come in with their guns and they're pointing them at clearly at an adolescent, at Chris, and they're manhandling Nick out of the house and doing all that stuff. Again, you may have a Lieutenant Moyers who's in charge of that unit, and that's what he is, and he could be gung ho, and he could be just taking advantage of his rank, absolutely. But the people underneath you are going to be like, Lieutenant, what the hell are you doing? These are our people. These are Americans. Right. We don't do this, So there was none of that. So it's like as soon as you slap a uniform on them, oh, they're bad guys. Right. And they don't care about, Americans and all that stuff. I have a massive, huge problem with that. You want to do it, you want to do it well, and you still want to paint first of all, these guys, it's a National Guard unit. These guys are just following the orders of somebody else higher up on the chain of command, up the food chain.
Right.
They're not the ones that are they're executing policy, but they're not going to have as much of a clue about what they're doing or why they're doing it. So, an enlisted guy messing around with Ophelia or, well, that stuff's going to happen because, we're sent here to do this, but, it's bullcrap, whatever. What was the other point I was going to make?
Did you watch the previews for next week?
Yes.
Okay. So it does look like they're going to address a little bit of that. There was a sequence where it seems like someone does exactly what you're saying and they challenge what's going on.
And
I don't know whether they'll handle it well or not, but it seems like maybe they're going to try to address it. But it doesn't negate what you're saying. I totally agree.
Yeah, and if you want to do that, if you want to paint, there's again, it always cracks me up because it's every time it's the military, it's always the heavy hand. It's always we got to go in. I mean, he rifle butted Nick in the face. I mean,
right.
Really? I mean, if you want to do that, if that's how you want to play it, and you want to play them as these guys are bad guys or whatever, dude, do it subtly. Like, have him be, have Moyers, have him less governor and crass, and make him more like, hey, Nick, I'm your buddy, or Travis, I'm your buddy. Let's here. You know what? Hey, I got a beer. Here's some beers I pulled out of the DMZ over there. Let's talk. And then all of a sudden, Travis finds out like, holy crap, I told you this information, and all of a sudden those people in that house are dead.
Right.
Like,
right.
Do it that way, But don't come out so heavy-handed and
yeah.
So that was like I said, while I thought it was good, that presence, their presence, and it just kind of lended itself to, that weight. I didn't like how it was handled at all for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that it smacks a little bit of laziness in terms of writing,
mm-hmm.
And I think that it also piggybacks with your other issues, which I agree with that. The 9-day jump and the fact that we've didn't get to see any of the fall, and because the reality is that the first response of the military is going to be one of trying to help,
right,
trying to do the right thing, trying to protect citizens, trying to stop this threat, and
especially here on our turf.
Yeah, of course, and to then pass all of that. I mean, they would have had, if they'd shown that, they would have had lots of opportunities to portray the military in a positive light initially,
mm-hmm.
and then bring it to this
sure.
Scenario where now the ranking is so destroyed, or the person in charge is so jaded that the orders coming down are bad, and now people are starting to worry, and so they're following blindly and doing stupid shit and everything else. But instead we're just there and we miss a chance to see a good portrayal of the military. And again, we probably shouldn't keep calling military the National Guard,
right?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that we did get one decent portrayal in the main show, where there was that platoon of guys that the governor discovers,
mm-hmm.
and then he shoots them all. But the implication is that they were decent guys,
right?
Trying to do good, and I think
they would have challenged his authority.
Yeah, exactly. They would have said, this is wrong, what you're doing here with all the, the science experiments and everything else. but I agree. I think that they should, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to get a better portrayal of either military or National Guard down the road. Maybe there will be a small platoon that they will hook up with. Maybe there will be a couple of commanders or soldiers that will become part of the main group. It would be awesome if they did that. I mean, we didn't get anything like that in the main show. The army is just gone, So yeah, I think this is a chance for them to do that, and hopefully they'll do that. I don't know if they will, but I agree with you.
All right, what was yours?
That was your ugly?
Yeah.
My uglies are two good ones. The whole last act, I thought that the pace of it, the writing of it, the terror of it, the realizations by Madison that she's losing her son, that Liza is responsible for this, the Travis's realization that the military is not there to do what he thinks they're going to do and help him, that they're a potential threat to his family. Daniel's realization that the freaking horrors of his childhood are coming back to life here, and it's starting all over again. The way it all happens at night, the fact that Alicia turns to her brother and says, "Run." She realizes what's going on. She tries to help him. Just heart-wrenching, explosive, terrifying, super well done, in my opinion. Let's see. It was a great twist, I thought, too, with the taken Nick. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Liza already, and I think it just horrifying, putting her in that spot. Here she's trying to do what she thought was good, trying to help people. She's ended up getting them taken, potentially killed. Now she's got to leave her own son in order to try and make good what she's fucked up. And also just put a huge wedge between her and Madison when she was trying last episode to reach out and connect with her. So just heart-wrenching and excellent writing. Just fantastic last act, I thought. Again, I want to talk about sound. The show is doing so much better. They're treating sound, in my mind now, not only better than they started off, but better than the other show. They're making it an art form. The way, when I even think back now to, we talked about before in the first couple episodes where you're hearing sirens and things in the background. Last week, when the party was the last week of the week before, when the party was going on across the street, you could hear the party going on, but it was scary noises. It wasn't happy noises. You know what I mean? Just now, in this week's episode, you had the chimes and the different way that the chimes signaled things and signified things, the way that they manipulated the sound of the chimes when he was in the morphine, the sequence that I talked about earlier where they go by the fence and it's the sunrise is coming up. They get these wild, intense visuals. She's trying to signal this music that was just edgy and haunting and building and electric and nerve inducing, or nerve edgy type music. And then these animal sounds in the background. If you listen to that, go back and listen to it again. I don't know what the hell that was. It wasn't a rooster.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. It sounded like a person screaming, but it was also clearly an animal. I don't know what the freak it was.
I thought it was a person screaming is what I thought.
It sounded like a person screaming, but it also to me sounded like, like some rooster morning stuff.
Could have been foxes getting it on. You ever hear foxes get it on?
I know, sometimes.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, it's like...
We get turkey fights. We get raccoons or foxes fighting with turkeys at night, and it sounds like... Or owls, too. Just wicked screaming noises. But anyway... horrifying when you take that edgy metal music or electric music and you put it with that sound. Just was just kept me right on the edge of the seat. When she goes into the DMZ zone, you get this rhythmic thumping heartbeat music that just you're waiting, is she going to get attacked by a zombie? The military going to find her? And it's just building. And then this electric track and it's static, and then at the same time, you've got all this wild music that's building and building and building. You're hearing the flies that are on the dead bodies. And it was just, to me, sound wise, it was like painting. It was just, they were doing as much with sound as they were with the visual. And of course the opening scene, the song, we talked again, the pilot, I was unhappy with how the music was. And I think this first episode as well. And, now they've got it. They've got a musical, or I don't want to say musical, but an orchestrated sound for the episode that comes and goes and comes and goes. And then you've got these songs that are like poignant splashes, like that opening song, and it's just so thought out, so well done. Really, really happy with that. So that was my second ugly.
I just wanted to point out, and because it appears twice in the show. It appears once as the just the numbers, Revelations 21 verse 4.
Yep.
And then later on, it's actually written out when Madison's in the DMZ.
Yep.
So just in case anybody was wondering, Revelations 21:4 basically says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." So it's
Bleak.
and one of those things.
Bleak.
What's that?
Bleak.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's almost like, tying back into fear is that basically, when you die, there's no fear for dying because everything's taken away. Like it's all,
right.
There's nothing to fear. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, just that I'm looking forward to next week's episode, and I'm not sure. I'm really curious as to what cobalt means. I'm anxious to find out what that's going to be about. Definitely seems like it's going to be a rescue episode, or at least the beginning of a rescue episode. Maybe the final will be the rescue episode. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think the final is going to have to set up the next. We keep using the word paradigm, which is probably overused, but right now you've got the safe zone that clearly is not safe, and I think that's going to have to be kind of like I'm anticipating the final is going to be very similar to the end of the prison sequence. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That there's going to be some sort of huge confrontation with the army, either with people from inside or from zombies on the outside, and it's all going to go to crap, and there's not going to be any more safe zone. Now, I don't know, because the other thing that happens, I think, with these shows, it seems, is that they invest in a set, and then they have to then they have to use it.
Then they have to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, exactly. And where are you going to have, you got a pretty big cast now, and where are you going to have them go? Are they just going to be on the street? I don't know if we've reached that part, but I definitely hope that they're going to, that it's not going to be just like, oh, we're going to be back in the safe zone and we'll see you next season,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the last episode is going to do something like that. Somehow move them to a new situation.
All right. Well, we'll see. 2 episodes to go, and then the season 6 premiere for Walking Dead. Don't forget to go to the Biters Facebook page, and if you want to be Daryl's date to the season 6 premiere in New York, sign up and see if you win. All proceeds from that contest go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's like 6 days left, 5 or 6 days left in that.
As I sit here, you keep mentioning dates and times, and the premiere of the main show is corresponds with New York Comic Con, and I'm sitting here coloring pages as we podcast, and I'm terrified I'm not going to make it, but we shall see. We shall see.
All right. On that note.
Hey, don't forget to write us at biterspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. What's the Facebook address?
It's the Biters, the Walking Dead podcast.
And also we tweet at Biters Podcast, at Biters Podcast. And Jeff tweets at jmarzik, and I tweet at BatmanKM. You can also check out Z-Girl and the Four Tigers at zgirl.org, which is the comic book that Jeff writes and I draw. And
check out our cool action figure on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will have copies of her at New York Comic Con if you're planning to come. And what else?
I think that's it.
Yeah, definitely not a lot of, we don't have much mail. We had one, actually, wait a minute. We had one comment from Gary Dombrowski, who posted up on the Facebook page. 3 of our principal characters literally saw the light this episode, the light being the one coming from outside the safe zone. The army is being portrayed as stereotypical Hollywood fashion. He definitely agreed with you, obviously, there, Jeff. They appear more like jailers rather than saviors. Instead of being given vital, I'm assuming he means information to their day or to their lives, they are being read gung-ho speeches by general. Nick, Liza, and Griselda are 15 minutes outside of the safe zone. We now have enough story fodder to get us through season 2. I give the episode 3 1/4 morphine drips.
Oh my God, I was going to go with morphine drips.
I like that one. I think that one's going to stick. So,
we got.
Thanks, Gary.
Thomas Reese also wrote in yesterday too. So he had talked about last week. I skipped writing last week because every time I'd start, I'd lose focus and break into my neighbor's house and tap into his morphine drip. The dog gets 2.0 shots of double-aught buckshot to the face. There was some good stuff, but overall, I'm hoping the dog's the weakest episode of the season. Plot transitioning was too convenient, and I just felt insulted at times. If you're going to make us wait 2 weeks, you better come back with something better than this BS. Even the name of the episode is lazy. I like that we found out a little bit about Daniel and Travis's past, Daniel in the Salvadoran Civil War, and I think we're to assume Travis used to be a cholo from the barrio. He was looking at Chris's nose. He says, "Do you know how many times I've had my nose broken?" I think he's referring to a sketchy past. We're going to find out he's a domesticated badass. I forgot about that line. You're right.
That's interesting. Very good.
But if he's a cholo from the barrio, then why is he's not so street smart?
Yeah, maybe he's got a criminal past, or something like that. Yeah.
The ugly is a bad and goes to Alicia and her horrible decision making. Close the door behind you, you stupid. Pete just ate the neighbor's baby.
What the heck?
It says, "Close the door behind you, you stupid. Pete just ate the neighbor's baby." I don't know. Zombie kill goes to Pete, shot to the face. Pretty cool.
I think he was on the morphine drip when he wrote this.
I think so. It's kind of funny. Character of the week goes to Daniel. He has the wisdom of Herschel and the ruthlessness of Shane. I'm starting to really like the character. Crazy predictions. It's going to get better. By the way, I guess we found out this week that my prediction last week that Madison got bit was not true. Although, who saw Alicia giving herself a tattoo and going, "Oh no, so bad."
That was a messy. Blood was all over the place and everything. I'm like, oh boy, infection in the war zone, in the apocalyptic. That's smart.
Kirk went into reflexive Purelling himself.
That's right. What was the prediction I had? I made a prediction last week. I can't even remember what it was.
So clearly it was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, not fade away. This is Thomas Reese still. Not fade away gets 3.5 slices of Lieutenant Moyer's weak-ass golf swing. Governor callback much? I guess they're implying that anyone who has the leisure of cracking a couple during the apocalypse is automatically deemed evil. I don't know about you, but I definitely find to get at least 9 in every other day. A much better episode. I love the opener. The ironic music over Travis's delusions of normality and Chris's information dump work perfectly. I love how Maddie snuck out and showed us the world outside the fences, and I'm glad she finally beat the shit out of Nick. He's got to get it together. Siphoning off your neighbor's morphine drip is just low, man. I like the mirror signaling and the ending with Travis realizing that every parent in every horror movie should always listen to their kids. I really like Daniel's fishing story about his father in the war. My bads. There wasn't a whole lot, but mainly, where are the zombies? There's like 15 million people in L.A.
Yeah, I guess the same way.
I guess 100 million. They couldn't have cleared everyone out. And why is Alicia so damn stupid? She is not allowed to criticize anyone for being clueless. Why don't you go tattoo a bite mark on your arm and cry about it? My ugly isn't bad and goes to the new doctor and her sneaky little lies. I'm not sure what to think of her yet. She seems good and she's smoking hot, but that would just make her an even better villain. Yeah, see, that's the thing. You know, you throw me a villain, you throw me somebody who's bad, but you make her hot. Oh, conflicted. Character of the week goes to Daniel again. Zombie kill of the week is just a question mark. His crazy predictions. I think Fear will stay relatively zombieless. Every time I talk to someone who doesn't watch the show, they always say, I don't do zombies. And I think that's who they're trying to appeal to. I think we're going to see the Cure storyline start in LA and will ultimately tie the two shows together with a combined series finale. I think it would be interesting to see things get better in one part of the country while our characters in Atlanta still struggle with the outbreak and slowly see signs of the Cure approaching.
Wow.
Interesting.
I don't think that's going to happen. That will only happen if Robert Kirkman leaves this show and it continues. He's pretty much made a number of statements on the record of, that he has no intention of there being ever a cure.
Right.
And
then we had the one from Diane Maythorne that said, "The Ruben Blades just tell us how Fear the Walking Dead got its name."
Right.
And your response was Thomas Reese was like, "Whoa." And then Kirk, you put together a response that had the least number of typos I think I've ever seen you write.
Yay! Yay! Yay!
You said, "Yep, I think so." Well, Ruben Blades combined with Rick Grimes, actually. Rick Grimes taught us that, quote, we are the Walking Dead. In other words, living are just the Walking Dead. Ruben Blades taught us that fear makes people evil and a threat. So Fear the Walking Dead translates to Fear the Living. I just repeated what you said earlier in the podcast.
Yes, you did. I was going to stop you, but I love to hear myself. I love to hear myself talk and be repeated, so I went with it.
All right. I think on that note,
yep,
I have to go get my daughter from soccer practice. So,
there you go.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please write to us, give us your comments, and let us know if we missed anything. I know we didn't, but if we did, perchance, let us know. And we will talk at you guys next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.